Do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior, Mike Flanagan? Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Nick from the Lost River Drive-In coming at you hot tonight to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Mike Flanagan. Yes, now, this may be a name you're familiar with. You probably are if you're a horror fan. Or even if you're not familiar with the name, I know for a fact you've seen multiple works from this guy because his stuff's pretty popular, even if you might not know his name. So I felt compelled to do this because I've been a fan of Mike Flanagan ever since I was introduced to him. And I decided that I wanted to go over all of his work, give you my thoughts on it, give you my thoughts on him as a filmmaker, where he can go next, and just kind of really dive into it. So I'm excited to do this. I just finished Midnight Mass, which was another massive success hit that Netflix had with Mike Flanagan. And I know I was a little late to the party with Midnight Mass. Got caught up with a lot of other things going on and hadn't watched it yet, but I've just watched it, and that is what compelled me to do this. I said, I got to get in front of a camera and I got to talk about this dude. So first we got to start with his directorial debut. And I mean, he did shorts before this, but he did a movie in 2011 called Absentia. And a lot of people don't know about this movie, and the reason is because it's low budget. It's like an indie film. Didn't really get a lot of buzz, but it got really good reviews. Now, if you haven't seen Absentia, I cannot recommend it enough. I think that this movie, from day one with Mike Flanagan, this showed studio executives out there, this guy can craft a compelling, unique, chilling, supernatural story. Like, he can just tell that and create it just like nobody else. So I really enjoyed Absentia, but Absentia struggles from what a lot of films like this struggle from, and that is just its budget limitations. There is nothing he could have done better with the money that he was given, and I do think he did well with what he was given. But had this been a bigger budget production, I think you really would have heard a lot more buzz about it. So he didn't really break onto the scene yet, but people started to take notice, which is what gave him his next gig in 2013, Oculus. Now, let me just say, out of Mike Flanagan's filmography, this might be his weakest film in my opinion, and it's still a damn good movie. Oculus is this weird story about a haunted mirror that is like a family heirloom almost, and it can literally make you see and believe shit that isn't happening and kill you. And it's this really unique idea. I really enjoyed this movie, and it was really just really resonated with me and like bounced around in my brain for a while. And the thing about this movie, though, is that it loses me a little bit at the end, which is why I kind of didn't absolutely adore the film. But I think that it is a super unique idea, and I really think that if this is your low point, your second film, first decently budgeted film, you're going places, dude. And boy, was he going places. So his next film was the beginning of his relationship with Netflix, and it was Hush, starring his wife, Kate Segal, who is she's deaf and she's like a writer, she's a shut-in, and a dude shows up at the house to rob, kill her, he's a home intruder basically. And I thought the concept was amazing. This deaf woman that can't hear any of this, she would seem like an easy target, right? But she's not. She's a badass. And I loved this movie. This movie gave me like old school slasher vibes. Obviously really hammers home the home invasion theme super well. I love the sound design in this movie. It really puts you in the place that you need to be. This movie was a banger. Banger. Then Mike Flanagan comes out with Gerald's Game, which is another Netflix adaptation. And this is obviously a Stephen King property. And I loved Gerald's Game. First of all, the idea that an older couple, middle-aged couple would want to spice things up and get a little kinky in the bedroom, ain't nothing wrong with that. Now, what happens if your partner dies and you're handcuffed to the bedpost? Dude, what? So that in and of itself was a terrifying concept. And I really loved the way he played on like the claustrophobia and isolation in this movie, because it is a great story, but it's not guaranteed to come across that way on screen if you're not good at ratcheting up that fear from the position this character's in. And I think Mike Flanagan does that really, really well in this movie. Her seeing death or whatever they call him, I can't remember the exact name, but I believe it's basically like a visual representation of death, was creepy as shit the first time I watched it. I really, really enjoyed this movie. And then Mike follows that up with Ouija Origin of Evil. And Ouija Origin of Evil, a lot of people were skeptical about because Ouija sucked. Butthole. And then Ouija Origin of Evil comes out and people are like, this is really good. Maybe this should have been the first movie and we can forget that chicken abortion. Because the first movie is terrible. But this movie, oh yeah, absolutely 100% sign me up. We have seen these like demonic possession, supernatural movies done to death over and over and over again. How can you do that and be creepy and effective now when we have been oversaturated as a community with these movies? Well, look no further than Mike Flanagan, who literally nailed it with Ouija Origin of Evil. One, it's a period piece and it just, the time period bleeds through the screen. It's beautiful. And then just from the kid performances to the shot selection to the sound design to the just general like fear and dread throughout this movie that permeates this movie. It's just fantastic. So then Mike starts to get into his television side of things, but he had one more movie. And I think this actually came out after his first foray into Netflix's television series. So I guess I should start with that one then. What am I doing? I don't know. His first one was The Haunting of Hill House, which is obviously an adaptation of an old story. Wow. Okay. I remember the hype for this show when the show came out. I remember everybody talking about how this was terrifying. It was one of the best things they'd ever seen. And I was like, and I watched it the week it came out. I wasn't behind, but I was like, people give praise like this all the time. This is awesome. I mean, awesome. This show still has stuck with me 3.5 years later since it came out. Like, it was just such a ride that I've watched it 3 times now all the way through, and it is as effective as the first time. I mean, it is just incredible. Now, The Haunting of Hill House is scarier in less traditional ways. This is not your jump scare boogie boogie type show. But there are moments like that. I think about the dumbwaiter scene, with Kid Luke. I think about the floating man. I think about the bent neck lady. These are genuinely terrifying things, and they're handled so well. They're not shown enough to where they're not scary anymore. Mike Flanagan does a really good job of holding that back. But the dread that permeates throughout this entire series, every single episode, and the real life problems are just like chef's kiss, handled so well. That's where a lot of the terrifying stuff from this comes from. We're talking about familial relationships, people that have gone astray. And it's just, it's breathtaking. I mean, it's so good. And I cried with this show, like 2 episodes. I can't remember what points it was, because it just affected me so deeply. It's about trauma, and it's about loss, and it's about longing, and it's about fear, and it is absolutely incredible. I mean, it resonates on every emotional level. It's handled, it's just, I can't go on enough about The Haunting of Hill House. It is one of the greatest limited series I've ever seen in my life. Then Mike comes out with what you guys know is one of my favorite horror movies of all time, Dr. Sleep. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about Dr. Sleep because I have talked about it to death on my channel. You guys know I love this movie. It's an incredible film. Absolutely incredible. And it's Stephen King's favorite film adaptation of one of his books. So that should tell you something. But I just love this movie to pieces. I think that this movie is beautiful. I mean, storytelling, acting, fear, originality. There's so much in this movie. I think it is absolutely brilliant. My jaw was on the floor when I left the theater, and still to this day, I hold Dr. Sleep so near and dear to my heart. I absolutely adore this film. And again, I could talk about it all day, but Dr. Sleep comes out, knocks my socks off. I'm in love. Greatest movie of 2019 for me, and easily, probably, I think it's my number 2 favorite horror movie of all time. Yeah. Wow. I'm going to get tomatoes thrown at me. Then comes The Haunting of Bly Manor, which is another limited series, one season on Netflix. Now, The Haunting of Bly Manor was just like Hill House in the sense of it's beautifully told, it's beautifully acted, it's just great. It's a great show. But The Haunting of Bly Manor was more drama than horror. And I feel like Hill House blended those two elements together a little bit better than Bly Manor did. Having said that, I think Bly Manor is fantastic. I loved The Haunting of Bly Manor. And I couldn't get enough of it. And it really felt like I was transported to the same world with The Haunting of Hill House, just not as scary and not as deep and emotionally affecting. But it was such a great show. And that leads me to Midnight Mass, which is where we are now with Mike Flanagan. I just finished watching Midnight Mass last night, and I have to say that Midnight Mass is easily his greatest show he's ever put together, and my second favorite thing he's ever done after Dr. Sleep. Midnight Mass was brilliant. I mean, absolutely brilliant. There were multiple points throughout the show where my jaw was on the floor. I was surprised. I was enthralled by the performances. I loved the commentary on the church and how it can brainwash and how organized religion can brainwash. And I am a Christian. Like, don't get me wrong, but like, fuck organized religion because it goes like cultish sometimes. And that's kind of what this show did. But then the redemption of some of these characters and the finale, this show was one of the most emotional things I've ever watched. I mean, it is a journey that like you can't take your eyes off of it. I mean, it was just absolutely enthralling from start to finish. There are a few scenes. I'm not going to give spoilers if you guys haven't seen it yet, but there's a death that happens on a boat that I just did not see coming, and that messed me up. But the thing about this show, the very final sequence with a character named Erin, let's just say she's, I don't know how to word it, but her final sequence in the show is beautiful, and it's just so heavy. And then in episode 4, when Erin and Riley are having a talk about what happens when you die, guys, that's my biggest fear in life is death. And I have like really bad anxiety. And that conversation gave me like a mild panic attack while I'm sitting on my couch. But I shit you not, I'm sitting here freaking out about death as I'm watching this unfold. And I can't turn it off. I can't, because I am so captured by what is happening on screen. And that is the mark of a truly great filmmaker, a great script, and great acting. I ate this show up. I mean, Midnight Mass was absolutely brilliant. And I will hear nothing else about Midnight Mass, period. It's fantastic. Yeah. So guys, in summation, Mike Flanagan is a filmmaker that balances trauma and drama and emotions and just deep messaging and horror so well. I think his perfect wheelhouse is like the supernatural, family drama, relationship drama. He excels at all of that stuff. And as his career has gone on, it's been such a delight to see how much he's grown because, like I said, I really liked Absentia and I really enjoyed Oculus. To go from those, which are very good films, into stuff like Dr. Sleep, Midnight Mass, The Haunting of Hill House, I mean, he just doesn't miss. And I'm starting to get to a point, and this is another reason why I was compelled to make this video. Because too often when we're in the middle of something, we don't really realize we're in the middle of it. You know, it's kind of like you look back on something and you feel very fondly about it and you're like, wow, that was, an incredible time to live in because of this and that. And, this was happening right before our eyes. Guys, one of the greatest directors, horror directors specifically, but directors all around, in my opinion, is having his career play out in front of us right now. Like, don't miss this. Like, please don't miss this because this is happening before our eyes. Now, I know I can be reactionary sometimes, and I know that I can jump the gun, and I can get a little, oh my God, I don't know what kind of noises I'm making, but you know what I'm saying. But I've watched this guy for a decade now. I've watched his trajectory. I've watched the quality that he's put out, and how some of his things have made me feel ways that other things just can't. And I've come to realize that that is just because he is truly an auteur. I mean, he is a gift to cinema. And I mean, he should be credited for that. And we should recognize that. And we should appreciate that. I'm going on record right now to say that Mike Flanagan will go down as one of the greatest horror directors ever. In my opinion, I think we are witnessing the prime of one of the greatest to ever do this. And I am just so thankful to be alive right now to witness this, because people in the 70s and 80s got that with Carpenter, and people got that before with Hitchcock and Kubrick. And we're seeing it right now with Mike Flanagan. And before you guys jump the gun, I implore you, if you haven't watched this stuff, go watch it and get back to me. But understand, this is just my opinion, but I don't think this is going to be a controversial opinion 5 to 10 years from now. I really don't. And 20, 30 years from now, this will be a widely accepted opinion. I have yet to find someone that tells me that this dude isn't the real deal. If they've seen his stuff, they know this guy is the real deal. I wanted to make this video because I feel like we're potentially witnessing the career of someone that should be on the Mount Rushmore of horror directors when it's all said and done. And we should be talking about it more. I mean, his shows on Netflix have been some of the most successful Netflix shows ever. Hill House and Midnight Mass, especially. Dr. Sleep was an incredible film. Hush took the world by storm on Netflix. I mean, this dude is like, we're witnessing this right now. So like, appreciate this. Live in this moment. This guy is incredible. So I just had to say that. And, you know, we get the Midnight Club later this year, which I know he served as a director and writer on for some of the episodes. I don't know if it's the whole series. I will be watching. And then next year, we're going to get the Fall of the House of Usher, which is going to be in the similar, you know, the same vein as like Midnight Mass and Hill House and Bly Manor. I can't wait. I will be watching. So yeah, I mean, this just turned into like a 20-minute love fest for Mike Flanagan spanning his career. But, you know, I love to do videos like this sometimes because I just really wanted to kind of shoot from the hip about something that I'm really passionate about, something that was on my mind and something that I felt like needed to be talked about. So that's what I'm doing, I guess. Look, I know he's never going to see this, but Mike Flanagan, you are incredible. It is a shame that it's New Line Cinema's loss that they didn't get you for the Nightmare on Elm Street movie that you had in mind, because they have no idea what they missed out on. Because this is a career that people are going to look back on and say he was one of the greatest to ever do it. So kudos to you, my friend. And wow, what a director. So yeah, guys, that's a brief history of Mike Flanagan and my thoughts on Mike Flanagan and the impact I think he has had on the industry and where he's going from here. I was very passionate about this. I'm very glad I did this video, and I hope it resonates with you. And for some of you that maybe didn't know some of these things, I hope this was informative to you. But again, I implore you guys to watch his stuff and follow this dude and just follow his career, because it's going to be something really special to behold when it's all said and done. But yeah, guys, if you liked this video, please leave it a like and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of this video. What do you think of Mike Flanagan? What do you think of his movies? How would you rank them? How would you rank him as a director? Maybe overall, or maybe just working nowadays? Anything and everything down below in the comments. Let's discuss it. Follow me on social media. Check me out on patreon.com. It is the greatest, best, most effective way to support the channel. And listen to the Uneeda Horror Podcast now on Planet CHH or on any audio platform, anywhere you get your podcast. So thank you guys so much for watching. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm pulling out.